the activities, everything going on. We bring you the latest local events. We bring you what are the interesting topics to us, and of course much more. Let's take a look at the main local events right after the break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If we're talking about local news, the main topic that dominated the news here in Egypt was the youth conference held under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi in Aswan. Now, the second state-sponsored national youth conference came to an end in Aswan on Saturday, during which President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi took questions from several attendees. El-Sisi asserted on Saturday morning that the main goal of the meetings held on a monthly basis with youth is to prevent the strife caused by the schemes of evil people. El-Sisi's comments came during a live stream of the second day of the conference. During the conference, El-Sisi met with 150 young people in Upper Egypt and discussed the current issues facing the Nubian community. El-Sisi responded to a Nubians by saying that Nubia is part of Egypt and that the state is working hard to develop it. He added that the state is currently working on the establishment of a development apparatus to follow up on projects planned to be established there. In response to questions regarding Egypt's position on the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, El-Sisi said that cooperation is still ongoing with Ethiopians according to the Principal's Declaration on the dam. Regarding discussions of the U.S. administration and a possible transfer of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, El-Sisi said that Egypt is working to ensure that such a move would not complicate the Palestinian issue any further. And still with more local news, the Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry met his newly appointed Ethiopian counterpart in Addis Ababa in the first meeting since the foreign minister took office, succeeding former Ethiopian foreign minister Tedros Adhanom. Shoukry and his Ethiopian counterpart discussed the course of bilateral relations between Egypt and Ethiopia in coordination between them on various African issues. The pair also explored the possibility of joint tripartite negotiations over the Renaissance Dam by including cooperation and coordination with Sudan. Shoukry affirmed Egypt's full commitment to support and strengthen the existing cooperative path between the two countries, while expressing interest in hosting the meetings of the Joint Higher Committee between the two countries as soon as possible. For his part, the Foreign Minister of Ethiopia stressed the common interests and historical relations between the two countries, particularly through the River Nile, which forms a link between them eternally, and said that it is in the interest of both countries to maintain this positive relationship. And to shed more light on the importance of the youth conference that was held in Aswan, we are joined live now by Dr. Yumn Al-Hamai, Professor of Economics. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Yumn.
Good afternoon.
Dr. Yumn, how do you see the importance of the youth conference held in Aswan, let's say from an economic perspective?
Actually, this conference was quite important, taking into consideration that President el-Sisi started to have dialogue with youth in order to discuss the main opportunities and challenges that may mainstream youth into the economic process and economic development.
Yes.
You know, the conference of yesterday has been confined for Upper Egypt, and we all know as Egyptians that Upper Egypt has been deprived from, facilities, services, and opportunities for economic development. despite that this area is full of resources and potentialities, mineral resources, natural resources, physical resources and human resources.
True.
We all know that, the people of Upper Egypt are immigrating into the large cities to find for opportunities of jobs, despite all these resources. And from here it comes the importance of discussing the potentialities of enhancing economic development in Upper Egypt and how youth can participate in this developmental process, as well as, this could be a very good opportunity to find opportunities of job. And from here it comes that one of the sessions has been dedicated to the role of SMEs in order to use resources efficiently in Arab Egypt, in Upper Egypt. And, they discuss the potentialities regarding how to address projects in import substitutions as well as export promotion, and all the potentialities to do that. We have, investment maps, and we have to use all the options that may encourage youth to find opportunities of jobs. And that this discussion has been quite important, and the president took immediate decisions into activating all the processes that may help to enhance the role of SMEs in Upper Egypt.
Professor Yumn El-Hamai, Professor of Economics, thank you very much for being with us in Cairo Local Time. And we move on with our news. Egypt's ambassador to Germany, Badr Abdel Ati, on Saturday evening held two separate meetings with the heads and senior representatives of travel agencies and airliners that deal with the Egyptian tourist destinations, as well as the representatives of German newspapers and magazines specialized in travel and tourism affairs. During the meeting, Abdel Ati called on the travel agencies to benefit from the recent German decision that paves the way for the return of the full flow of German tourists to Sharm el-Sheikh and other tourist resorts in South Sinai. A statement from the embassy said the decision allows the German airliners to conduct direct flights to the airports of South Sinai, particularly Sharm el-Sheikh Airport and St. Catherine Airport. The Federal Ministry of Transport in Germany issued an announcement last week exempting German airlines from the notice not to fly below 26,000 feet when passing over the north of the Sinai Peninsula. And we move on with the news. On the southern tip of the Mediterranean, the coastal waters are inching closer to buildings and flooded ancient structures, including the Greco-Roman tombs at Anfushi. Now, the seawater seeping into the groundwater has also made the fragile ground more unstable, resulting in the alarming collapse of some of the city's buildings. Many of the cafes and businesses on the Alexandria coast have begun adjusting to extreme weather without making the link to climate change. The UN estimates the global sea levels will rise between 13 centimeters and 68 centimeters by 2050 and say that the Mediterranean is particularly vulnerable. By 2080. Up to 120,000 people living near the sea could be affected by rising water if no action is taken to protect them. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a short break, then resume this edition of Cairo Local Time.
هنا القاهرة.
هنا القاهرة.
هنا القاهرة.
هنا القاهرة. هنا القاهرة. هنا القاهرة.
هنا القاهرة. القاهرة القاهرة.
هنا القاهرة.
هنا القاهرة وحبيبي أنا دمني ما يروح بيكون جنبي.
هنا القاهرة. هنا القاهرة.
عيني على أهل كايرو نبط وابنها من يسايروا، الكل عامل مثالي ونسلم في بعض يعاير.
هنا القاهرة الساحرة الآسرة الهادرة الساهرة السافرة السافرة.
لك حبيب بيحبك وتحب تهديه بهدية، هاتوا مصر الحليوة يقول لك دي صحيح هي أم الدنيا.
هنا القاهرة.
القاهرة ونيلها وكلها وأغانيها ومواويلها وحكاويها يا جمالها. القاهرة تجيلنا تحن لها.
Beside the river Nile, my heart belongs to Cairo, oh Cairo, where I have found my smile.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in order to have a closer look on the youth conference that was held in Aswan under the auspices of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and all the activities that took place during the conference, we have the following report.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi visited on Saturday Kima Chemical Factory in Aswan, where he inspected the renovation of two sewage networks. Earlier, President al-Sisi inaugurated the National Youth Conference on the economic developments in Upper Egypt. On the sidelines of the National Youth Conference in Aswan, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi attended discussion sessions on the initiative of small and medium-sized projects for Upper Egypt. The sessions were also attended by Prime Minister Sharif Ismail, Minister of International Cooperation Sahar Nas, Minister of Trade and Industry Tariq Qabil, Minister of Housing Mustafa Madbouli, and Minister of Electricity Muhammad Shaker. The session reviewed the youth vision needs to develop the industrial sector in Upper Egypt. It also tackled the economic challenges and development process there. During the sessions, the President al-Sisi said that tourism is the main obstacle that stands against the country's development, calling on the whole community to unify to face all challenges. For his part, the Prime Minister stressed the importance of turning the Upper Egypt to a region that attracts investment through providing the infrastructure projects including roads, housing and electricity. The sessions also saw a number of ministers give speeches about the achievements of their respective ministers in that regard. The monthly National Conference for Youth in Aswan, which was inaugurated by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Friday, continued for a second day with the participation of hundreds of youth from Upper Egypt's governorates. The two-day conference discusses various files concerning the development of Upper Egypt. Light of the President keenness to support the area on all levels. The conference brings together 1,300 youth from Upper Egypt's governorates and is attended by a large number of ministers, high-ranking officials and members of parliament.
Welcome back. Tourism plays a major role in the Egyptian economy, and it has unfortunately been hit hard during the past 5 years. And there are actually more initiatives and activities in order to flourish a very vital sector. As we mentioned earlier, Egypt's ambassador to Germany, Badr Abdel Ati, on Saturday evening held 2 separate meetings with the heads and senior representatives of travel agencies and airliners that deal with the Egyptian tourist destinations, as well as representatives of German newspapers and magazines specialized in travel and tourism affairs. In the following report, we have more details regarding the return of German tourists to Egypt.
Sharm el-Sheikh. This came as the Foreign Affairs Ministry announced that the German Transportation Ministry removed the restriction on German airlines that required them to fly at a minimum altitude of 26,000 feet above South Sinai. The restriction was imposed in October 2015. In the wake of the Metrojet flight crash and lifting, it means airlines can now resume flying directly to Sharm el-Sheikh and St. Catherine international airports without paying additional tourist fees. Germany has removed the last restriction on the flow of tourist flights to and from Sharm el-Sheikh and South Sinai areas, thanks to the efforts of the Egyptian Embassy in Berlin and Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry. A statement for the Egyptian Foreign Ministry said that the Federal Ministry of Transport in Germany issued an announcement exempting Germany airlines from the notice not fly below 26,000 feet when passing over the north of the Sinai Peninsula. This is a first for aviation services to Egypt since the downing of the Russian passenger jet over Sinai in 2015. The statement said that the move would allow German airlines to fly directly to Sharm el-Sheikh. The statement also said that the move comes in the line with Germany's positive stances towards the Egyptian tourism sector. It added that Germany topped the number of tourists visiting Egypt in 2016 with 655 tourists. The removal of the restrictions on tourist flights to South Sinai was among the main topics discussed by Shoukry during his recent visit to Berlin from January 11 to 13th and his meetings with the German ministers of transport, foreign and interior.
In the same context, there has been a very important initiative called Ishtaghal, and the 2-year-old Ishtaghal initiative is actually starting its 3rd year with a new phase. Now, after the 2 old phases that were built mainly on the employment fairs in Sharm el-Sheikh and Cairo, now this 3rd phase is launching a project to start a fund for these small projects. Ishtaghal initiative is created to serve as a stepping stone to reduce the gap between the high unemployment rate and low skilled levels of the youth, the actual needs of the employer, hence creating a cycle of continuous added value. And the lack of professional white and blue collar employees in the Egyptian community is the main reason for the high unemployment rate, with the high cost and time consuming process for training new employees. The most effective method for recruitment became the experience-based selection process. Let's get more details from this report.
The 2-year-old Ishtaghal initiative is starting its 3rd year with a new phase after the 2 old phases that were built mainly on employment fairs in Sharm el-Sheikh and Cairo. This phase is launching a project to start a fund for small projects. Ishtaghal initiative is created to serve as a stepping stone to reduce the gap between the high unemployment rate and low skilled levels of the youth and the actual needs of the employer, hence creating a cycle of continuous added value. The lack of professional white and blue collar employees in the Egyptian community, the main reason for the high unemployment rate, with the high time-consuming process for training new employees. The most effective method for recruitment became experience merit-based selection process, resulting high budget plans for salaries and wasted opportunities in acquiring youthful outlook from young employees, subsequently adding to the unemployment pool, which leads to empowerment of Egyptian youth. Ishtaghal meanwhile seeks to create a new chain of mutual benefits and act as the active link to reduce the gap between business community needs and untrained employed youth. The long-term goals are to raise awareness on importance of work value as whole, with the special focus on vocational and technical careers, and to use different tools to lobby for educational reforms, to adopt strategies and techniques to prepare youth with the needed instrument for actual job market requirements.
Welcome back. In the same context, since we are talking here about tourism and the importance of tourism to the Egyptian economy, perhaps in the previous reports we talked about the initiative of Ishtaghal for the employment of the youth, and before that we talked about the travel ban of German tourists who are set to return back to Sharm el-Sheikh. But if we're talking tourism in Egypt, we have actually more to talk about than just Sharm el-Sheikh or Luxor or Aswan or Hurghada and the most famous destinations, because even Cairo is full of touristic destinations, and one of these destinations is the Muhammad Ali Palace in Manyal area, a beautiful place that is worth seeing. We have more details regarding this marvelous place in the following report.
Prince Shamil, the grandson of late King Farouk of Egypt, along with the top Russian diplomatic delegation, paid a visit to Muhammad Ali Palace in Cairo's El Maniel, while the son of Belarus President Lukashenko visited the Giza Plateau. Walauddin Badawi, director of the Muhammad Ali Palace, said the Prince Shamil, the son of King Farouk's daughter Princess Fadia, came to Egypt along with the Russian delegation, including top officials and friends of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Earlier, Latvia's ambassador to Egypt and the spouse of its former president also visited the palace. Badawi said that the visitors were keen to take photos in different sections of the palace and promised to pay another visit to Egypt soon. Ashraf Mohi, director of the Giza Plateau, said that Lukashenko visited the Giza pyramids and took photos in front of the Sphinx. Lukashenko, who Mohi says is fond of ancient Egyptian civilization, paid another visit to Plateau on the second day of his visit to explore the Great Pyramids of Khufu. On the northern side of Jabal al-Silsila in Aswan, the Egyptian-Swedish archaeological mission from Lund University has stumbled upon another group of rock-hewn tombs from the reign of New Kingdom pharaohs Amenemhotep II and Thutmose III. Announced by Mahmoud Afifi, head of the Ancient Egyptian Antiquities Department at the Ministry of Antiquities, the Swedish mission, led by Maria Nilsson and John Ward, in 2015 discovered a series of rock-hewn tombs located in the north of Jabal al-Silsila's east bank, in the area immediately to the north of the famous Stele of King Amenemhotep V and stretching westwards to the Nile. Nilsson said that while the tomb had been also described by previous visitors to the site, no comprehensive survey nor any proper archaeological work had been conducted until 2015, adding that during the initial survey, 43 tombs were identified and 5 were chosen to be cleared of sand and damaging layer of salt in order to study their state of conservation. Returning to the site 8 months later, Nilsson continued, the work proved successful as both external and interior walls, to some extent also the ceiling, stabilized by exposing them to the sun, drawing out prior dampness. In the initial clearing process, the team was successful in identifying various archaeological markers, including 2 marked chambers, external courtyards, and dressed porticos, slot cuts into the door jambs by the entry to the tomb. During this session, Nilsson said, the team discovered another 12 rock-cut tombs as cut into the rock. 2 niches possibly used for offering one tomb containing multiple animal burials. The majority of the tomb excavated so far, with the main exception of 2 infant burials, had been plundered in antiquity and left neglected without further disturbance.
من أول يوم فتحنا علينا في الدنيا وجينا بنلون ونشخبط بإيدينا وبنرسم، يعني الإبداع كان مولود فينا لحظة ما وعينا، لو شفنا وبصينا حوالينا نتعلم. يلا سيب بصمتك، يلا يلا سيب لمستك، يلا شوف الكون سبحان من حلا. يلا سيب بصمتك، يلا يلا سيب لمستك، يلا شوف الكون سبحان من حلا. بلدنا نجملها ونبنيها ونتغزل فيها، والفرصة بتيجي للي بيسعى تناديله، وفي أجمل صورة هنخليها من خوفنا عليها، ودي همة واحد واحد فينا وضميره. يلا سيب بصمتك، يلا يلا سيب لمستك، يلا شوف الكون سبحان من حلا. يلا سيب بصمتك، يلا يلا سيب لمستك، يلا شوف الكون سبحان من حلا. يلا سيب بصمتك، يلا يلا سيب لمستك، يلا شوف الكون سبحان من حلا.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're going to discuss a very important topic. The exporting industry has been facing some obstacles here in Egypt, and therefore it was the role of the Engineering Expert Council to try to find solutions to this problem and actually enhance its role. And one of these solutions was to launch a training program for the exports specialists. In order to shed more light on this very important topic, we are joined by Mrs. Maha Saleh, the Executive Director of the Engineering Expert Council. It's great having you with us, Ms. Maha.
How are you?
And also Engineer Muhammad Nasif. He is board member of the Engineering Expert Council. Thank you very much, Engineer Muhammad, for coming. Now, I would start with the ladies first. Ms. Maha, can you shed more light on the role of the council? The Export Council?
The Engineering Export Council is an advisory body for the Minister of Industry and Trade, and its board of directors are mainly from young businessmen with a lot of initiatives that they took and through this past year, headed by Engineer Amr Abu Frikha. We are one-stop shop for a lot of export service providers that are mainly distributed about training and capacity building, finance issues, trade issues, and promotion. And also we connect some of the international entities and international bodies to help in developing SMEs in order to export and enhance exports.
Okay. Engineer Saleh, Engineer Muhammad Nasif, how do you see the idea? I mean, how did it come in the first place?
In the first place, we were trying to analyze the reasons behind the drop in the exports during 2015.
Yes.
And we did a survey between the engineering export companies. And one of the main reasons that we found in the survey that most of the companies were suffering from unavailability of qualified export teams.
Okay.
So we took this, we had a board meeting.
So it wasn't the problem of the industry, it was the exporting specialists who suffered the problem.
Exactly, yes. The experience of the export team within the companies.
Okay.
We had the idea, we had a board meeting in the Engineering Export Council. We thought about it and we decided that we need to start investing in people. And we have done a lot of internal meetings and external with the Foreign Trade and Training Center. We agreed on the mechanism that we are going to follow to ensure that we are going to inject in the Egyptian market a qualified export specialists, a base of, let's say, 1,000 persons. This is our target, 1,000 over the coming 2 years. In the first beginning, we are already done with the first 4 waves. The 5th is currently running. What's worth mentioning here that one of these waves was done in Port Said.
Okay.
Our main objective is to cover most of the countries starting from Alexandria up to Upper Egypt.
Okay. Let me share my view here in this regard. Now, what I know is that somehow here in Egypt, one of the problems is that there is a gap between the public sector and the private sector. Perhaps the public sector is based on the hierarchy of the employees, okay, as managers or the people who put the strategies or the vision, while the private sector invests more in the human resources and provides more training for the people in order to cover what's missing there. Am I right?
Yeah. You're right.
So here, the Ministry of Industry resort to the expertise of the private sector in order to inject this new blood.
And that's the beauty, actually, of the export councils in general, because it's a private-public partnership. So the board of directors is assigned by the minister. They are all representing private companies and from different sectors, because if you're talking about the engineering industry, it represents 21 sectors. Okay. You can home appliances, electrical equipment, agriculture equipment, utensils, car components, vehicle industry. So the board of directors, we have one representing each industry or two according to the industry, and they reflect to the government their problems and their obstacles, and usually they have the solution as well.
Exactly, I was just
because
going to ask
the private sector is the one who knows where to solve the problem. It's not the government, so we don't just throw the ball to the government. In fact, we are...
You provide the solution.
We provide the solution from the private sector.
Okay.
And from there, several initiatives came up, like the one for training and employment for exports, because we found there's a lack of the capacity building in this area, and off-the-shelf training without knowing what the private sector needs is obsolete. So you're investing in people, and they come up after the training without working in any place.
Okay.
So from here we came with this idea that we should try to find the job specs from the private sector, and according to that we tailored the program according to the needs of the export department.
Okay.
And then we have a specialist who can be easily hired afterwards in the exporting companies.
Okay.
But then this initiative, we had a continuation for this initiative, which is trying to help SMEs work in the exporting field in general. Because we found a lot of difficulties in employing these young...
Apart from the engineering thing, or still related to the engineering sector?
It's related. We're talking about the engineering industry. We developed and we launched this program very recently, just a week ago, how to develop SMEs in order to exports. And from here, it has 4 phases. Phase 1 is you're talking about human resources, where we can use the first initiative we talked about for training and employment for exporters, and we can match these young people into those companies who need to export. So we find their way in through the companies. And by trying to attract more SMEs into the exporting community. And this is actually regarding to, we found out that if you're talking about the engineering sector, we have 250 exporters. The number didn't go up or down in 7-8 years. So this means that we need a new mechanism to attract.
This is bad news. I don't think this is good news.
This is very bad news. And another bad news I'm going to hit you with is that we have 14 companies that represent 80% of the engineering exports. So 20% are focused on the medium size, the small and medium size, where they work with a capacity of less than their 50% of their capacity production. So if you worked on that, the 50% could double in 2-3 years. But for the big ones, even if we interfered or tried to lobby for them, they already have reached a certain limit of production capacity, so they will not be able to double their exports. But this phase is the category where the Engineering Export Council, and where members of the board comes in with these initiatives and help us with.
Because we're running out of time, I want to briefly, Engineer Nassif, to tell me what are the results achieved so far. Now, I understand that 25 people are taking place in training.
Yes, every batch is 25 every round. It's 25.
Every round, 20 different
25
people.
Different people, yes. Now we are done with 4 batches. The 5th is currently running, so almost 100 have been graduated, received this graduation certificate. I believe most of them has been also employed. And because one of the pretty things of the program that we train for recruitment. So somehow we help and we support and we that the graduate will be employed.
With the experience that he got or she got from the training program.
Exactly.
And therefore you would be in the gap between the knowledge and the market needs. Because now you are providing through the training what actually the market needs. Am I correct?
You are right. The pretty of this program that the export specialist is only the first phase. We are planning for another 2 phases. The first one is export expert,
Okay.
and then export manager.
Okay.
So in this content, I would like to highlight that it's a very good potential for the new graduated to join the program, as this looks like it's a very promising career in Egypt for the near future. The demand in the market is very high, so we need the qualified person, and we guarantee that we are going to recruit them.
Well, that's good news.
Yes.
So we said bad news and good news here.
Yes, yes.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much. I'll start with the ladies first. Ms. Maha Saleh, Executive Director of the Engineering Expert Council. Thank you very much for the information you provided. So, Engineer Muhammad Nasif, Board Member of the Engineering Expert Council. Thank you very much, sir, for coming today.
Thank you for inviting us.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in this edition of Cairo Local Time. I'm Hana Al-Hamalawi signing off.